Well, we're talking about President Obama. His decision to seek congressional approval of military strikes against Syria is now topping the political agenda and putting every other issue that he has on his agenda on hold. His persuasion skills are indeed being tested now, as lawmakers from both parties say their constituents are against using military force. Let's take a look at this Washington Post ABC News poll. It shows that it finds 59% oppose attacking Syria, while 36% support it, with independents, as you can see, most strongly against it, and only 30% of independents for a military strike on Syria. So let's bring in our political insiders right now. John LeBoutillier, former Republican congressman for New York; Pat Caddell, a Fox News contributor and a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter; and Doug Schoen, he too a Fox News contributor and former pollster for Bill Clinton. Gentlemen, thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Kelly.
I feel like I'm so far away from you. And as we look at these polls, our difference between each other shows the difference between the president and members of Congress, it would seem.
Exactly right.
A wide divide.
This is a hugely wide divide. And Pat and John, I know, will have something to add to what I'm about to say. But bottom line, there is a huge divide in America between ordinary opinion, which is, why are we doing this? What is it going to produce? And what is the benefit? And the administration, who has not made a case, which is why the president's going to go on all the shows and do the Oval Office address on Tuesday, and Congress, which is now starting to reflect public opinion, and I think the whip counts are showing a 6 or 7 to 1 margin against the attack.
Pat, some of the margins are even wider depending on who you look at. 10 to 1 margin.
No, well, and particularly in intensity. But if you look at Pew, you look at Ipsos. Look, the issue here, when you look at those numbers, is not just the independents. Look at the Democrats. The president doesn't have the support of the Democratic Party. Both parties are cracking over this. And what we see is not just the president, but we see a certain foreign policy leadership pushing this agenda against a country united from left to right against this and intensely against it. And by the way, the largest opposition to any prospective military action that Gallup has ever registered.
John, what's at stake for the president?
A lot. If he were to have this vote take place in the Senate and House, and if he loses, and I say if he has the vote, because Doug and I, just before we went on the air, we are of the opinion that if he's going to lose the vote in the House, which I think today he would lose badly, he may withdraw this thing, because he doesn't want to lose. Because if he loses something where he puts all his credibility on the line, Kelly, his lame duckedness begins right away.
And John, I think it's possible he may want, in his heart of hearts, to have to withdraw and say, I've done the will of the American people, and ultimately he'll be able to be for it without ultimately having to do it. Right.
Yeah. Well, look, gentlemen, as you know, Pat, particularly, the president has said this is not about politics. Even Dennis McDonough, the White House chief of staff, said this is not about politics.
Well, you know, Dennis McDonough could tell me the sun was rising east. Look, we are almost at the anniversary of Benghazi. Here we are, 11 years after 9/11, we got Benghazi, which the anniversary will be Wednesday.
To the day.
To the day. And on Tuesday, the president, what we have is we drew the red line in the sand. A year ago, they used chemical weapons. We didn't. This is all about saving the president's face. And this argument, suddenly after the disastrous policies, look, this president lied to the American people about Benghazi, as he did on the red line. He said, I didn't draw a red line. I think we have those
tape. Well, we'll call for it right now. Let's listen to the president of the United States talking about that red line. Well, we're waiting for it.
Well, I'm just saying the American people don't believe anything they're being told.
Okay, it's ready now. Let's listen to the president. All right.
Listen,
okay, basically, the president said that he didn't draw the red line, that the international community drew the red line, and he went on to say that if people don't step up to retaliate against Syria for this chemical weapon attack, it would be basically wrong for all of us to let them get away with it.
The big question about this is, and we all have our opinions, how did we get here with Barack Obama as president of the United States, who ran, in effect, against George W. Bush and what had happened for 8 years? He has morphed into George W. Bush II. And John Kerry is Donald Rumsfeld. And they have created a whole nother wave of anger about questionable intelligence. Should we go to war against a country that has not attacked us and that is no threat to us? We're back in 2002 all over again only this time it's a liberal Democrat who's ticking off everybody, and the Republican leadership up on Capitol Hill is on his side, just like the Democratic leadership 12 years ago was with George W. Bush. And the two parties are fracturing between the base and the leadership.
You know, you're talking about the two parties fracturing. We know that Representative Elijah Cummings is basically saying that the president has to prove to the American people that there is a case for conducting a strike against Syria. Other Democrats are coming out saying the same thing. So the president has to not only sell this to the American people, which will happen Tuesday when he goes before the public from the Oval Office Tuesday night from the White House office at 9 p.m., but he also has to convince his own party. And they are really, really at a feverish pitch right now trying to get their own party to support him.
Kelly, let me summarize what the stakes are. You're absolutely right to say that the Democratic Party is deeply divided and the president's credibility and influence with his own party, his own base is at stake. But with the debt ceiling coming up, the budget coming up, and the implementation of health care, the entire system of governance is at risk in the next month or so. Bottom line, we are in effectively a revolutionary moment.
Well, you know what? A year ago we said that we were pre-revolutionary. I believe they may be lighting the match to powder keg. And we've been saying this for some time. This breakdown between the establishment in Washington telling the American people, and look, we're not having a discussion. It's the president's own feckless policies in Egypt, Iran, all of this, which has led us to this moment. But Peggy Noonan wrote something yesterday that's important because it supports what we've been saying. The Syrian debate isn't really a struggle between libertarians and neoconservatives, or left or right, or Democrats and Republicans. It looks more like a fight between the country and Washington, between the broad American public and Washington's central governing assumptions. This is a revolutionary moment.
And to give proof to that, we had last week, the Congress starts coming back, and the first day after Labor Day, the Speaker of the House, the highest ranking Republican in the country, and the Majority Leader, the second highest ranking, Eric Cantor, just like that, come out and say, I'm for the attack. They didn't talk to their membership. They didn't do anything except I'm announcing. Here we are a week later. Do you know, counting those two, Kelly,
right,
we have less than a dozen Republicans in Congress who are in favor of this thing.
All right, we got to hold it.